My coffee was almost cold when my sister's voice sliced through the conference chatter. "Lena," she announced, gesturing my way with a practiced smile. "She's our family's command center. If you need a birthday remembered or a flight rebooked at 3 a.m., she's your wizard." Her colleagues offered polite, condescending smiles. Each one was a tiny sting. "My name is Lena Reed. To everyone I grew up with, that's all I am, the reliable one. The human schedule. The silent fixer of problems that others create." But in this moment, I'm standing at the heart of an industry summit my team built from scratch. And the sister who just introduced me as the family wizard has absolutely no idea she's a guest in my kingdom. She's leaning toward her group now, still performing. Lena's in her element here. Floor plans, name tags, making sure the coffee flows. She gives a light laugh. "Honestly, where would we be without the people who handle the boring stuff?" The circle chuckles. My spine stiffens, but I hold my ground. Next to her, her husband, James, looks at me differently. His gaze travels from the lanyard around my neck to the corporate logo dominating the wall behind me. "Lena," he says, his tone curious. "What exactly is your position here?" The air around us stills, waiting for my usual modest reply. But that old answer is dead. I feel the weight of every dismissed achievement, every patronizing joke, rise up in my chest. I let my reply condense into 2 words that will shatter a lifetime of assumptions. Before I share what I said, and how the room froze solid, tell me in the comments 1 word that people have used to define you. Let's see how many of us have been packed into boxes. The deepest wounds aren't from enemies. They're from the people who know the exact location of every single one of your insecurities. In our family's solar system, my sister Elise was the bright, burning sun. Older by 2 years, she was declared the creative genius after winning a middle school art contest. Elise has the big ideas, my father would toast at dinners. And Lena has the big heart. She makes sure the ideas actually happen. It sounded like a compliment. It felt like a life sentence, a supporting role I never auditioned for. It started small. I'd organize her chaotic art supplies, type up her project descriptions because her handwriting was artistic, and bring the lunch she'd forget to school. When I asked for help with my own science project, she'd ruffle my hair. "You're the practical one, Lee. I'm the dreamer. You don't need my help." This dynamic hardened into concrete by adulthood. Elise went to design school. I took a day job as a clinic coordinator to pay for night classes in business administration. "You're so grounded," my mom said. "You'll always have a job. The world needs doers." She meant to comfort me. It sounded like she was describing a sturdy, unremarkable piece of furniture. The first time she labeled me the family command center was at a gallery opening. Her friends, dressed in black, sipped wine and discussed portfolios. "And what do you do, Lena?" one asked. I explained managing patient flow and clinic logistics. Elise slid an arm around my shoulders. "She's the CEO of our family's chaos," she beamed. "She runs the behind-the-scenes magic so the rest of us can shine." Everyone laughed warmly. I smiled. It was the easiest reaction. That nickname became my identity in their eyes. At Thanksgiving, at graduations, Elise had a new, affectionate variation. "Lena's our director of operations," she'd say. "If you need something made possible, she's the architect." What she never saw was that managing chaos was a masterclass in power dynamics. I learned who really made decisions by watching who they relied on in a crisis. I saw how budgets truly worked, where the cracks in systems formed, and how to leverage quiet competence into real influence. The person who manages the calendar holds the keys to the kingdom. And I was studying the blueprint of the entire castle. I advanced, steadily. Clinic coordinator became practice manager, then regional operations lead, then director of systemic efficiency. With each promotion came more responsibility, more authority, more voice. But at family BBQs, I was still the one asked to coordinate the salad rotation. I could have shown them my performance reviews, the process improvements I'd implemented that saved hundreds of thousands. I told myself their opinion didn't matter. They were family. Except it did matter. Because as my professional world expanded, their casual boxing in of me began to feel less like a joke and more like a deliberate erasure. When my company created a new internal oversight division, a team designed to audit operational integrity and strategic partnerships, I was tapped to lead it. I downplayed it completely. Just a new project at work, I told my parents. In truth, it was the genesis of the title that would eventually force my sister to truly see me for the first time. The summit day began before dawn. The convention center was a cavern of echoes and potential. I swiped my keycard at a secured entrance. Director Reed, the overnight tech, nodded. Ready for the show? I was. I wasn't a speaker or a mere attendee. I was there because my division had vetted every speaker, analyzed every sponsor, and designed the framework for the partnership meetings that would happen behind closed doors. My title, Director of Systemic Integrity and Partnership Analysis, was a mouthful. Its meaning was simple. I helped decide who our company did business with. My work began with optimization, streamlining data flows, creating clarity from complexity. But as I audited interdepartmental projects, my leadership noticed a pattern. You don't just see the numbers, Lena, my CEO told me. You see the story behind them. I need that story in the boardroom. So I entered the boardrooms. I listened to pitches. I asked questions that exposed wishful thinking. I spotted ethical gray areas and cultural mismatches hidden beneath slick presentations. Gradually, my evaluations became a critical filter. For this summit, my team was the final review for a shortlist of potential alliance partners. One company on that list was immediately familiar, the design firm where Elise was a lead project director. I'd sat with that file open on my screen for an hour. It wasn't her firm, but the project up for evaluation was her baby. Familiar with them? My CEO had asked. My sister works there, I'd said. Not in leadership. He'd considered this. Does she know your capacity here? I'd smiled without humor. She knows I work in an office. That's about it. Flag it for compliance and proceed, he'd said. I need your unbiased assessment. That morning, the data as I walked the carpeted halls, that was my I saw their branding now, being polished not at a high visibility booth, but to judge. Elise wasn't to there provide yet. A verdict based on evidence. My colleague Sam asked, falling into step beside me. All set, I replied. He nodded toward the booth. Your sister's team, right? Any issues? I thought of a lifetime of being the practical one. No issues, I said. The review is objective. Good, Sam said. Their VP is in the 2 p.m. integration session. Your audit notes are the foundation. What I didn't say was that Elise had texted, speaking at the Innovate Summit today. Big things. You'd be bored, all theory. I hadn't responded. As the main hall filled, I moved through the crowd. To most, I was staff, someone to point them toward the restrooms. To a select few, I was the analyst whose report could greenlight or bury $1 million deal. To my family, I remained the dependable logistics contact. They were on the cusp of a profound miscalculation. The morning keynote addressed the invisible architecture of success. The speaker praised the unseen systems that enable grand visions. The crowd laughed in recognition. I didn't. I watched the attendees. Some nodded sagely. Others checked their phones. The speaker concluded, true visionaries don't just have ideas, they honor the infrastructure that makes them real. I found Elise in the third row, whispering to a seatmate, her expression dismissive toward the stage. The lobby during the break was a storm of handshakes and pitches. I was verifying a room change when I heard, Lena, over here. It was James, my brother-in-law, waving. Quite the operation, he said, joining me. Elise must be thrilled to be speaking, I said. She is. But I wanted to see your handiwork. She said you helped with the planning. It's impressive. We have a strong team, I said, the automatic deflection. He gave me a look that suggested he saw through it. I've been on the receiving end of your team's planning spreadsheets. I know who the architect is. We chatted until Elise found us, grabbing James's arm. There you are. Ready for my panel? She turned to me. All running smoothly, Lee? No fire drills. So far, so good, I said. Her colleagues gathered, and she held court, talking about client engagement and creative disruption. When someone asked if I was with the event staff, Elise answered smoothly. This is my sister, she's in operations here. The real MVP, makes sure people like me don't show up to the wrong city. Warm laughter. A familiar heat flashed up my neck. I wanted to be anywhere else. But the PA system announced the next session. I remembered the keynote. I also remembered the risk matrix in my audit of Elise's firm, a pattern of scope creep, missed soft deadlines, and a lead project manager, her, consistently overpromising. Lena, one of her associates, asked, "Do you ever get to sit in on the strategic sessions, or is your domain strictly execution?" The ghost of my old self wanted to say, "I just keep the gears turning." Instead, I met his eye. "It depends on the definition of strategy." James was watching me, his head slightly tilted. "Anyway," Elise said, waving a hand, "we should let her get back to her domain. If we keep her, the microphones might stop working." More easy laughter. Something final settled within me. All the weekends spent building audit models. All the times my CEO had said, "What's the verdict, Lena?" and listened to the answer. All the times my sister had never once asked what my work involved. "Actually, James," I said, my voice cutting through the post-laugh murmur, "you asked what I do here earlier." The group's attention, which had been drifting, snapped back. Elise's smile tightened slightly. James nodded. "I did. Elise always says you're in operations. But this feels bigger." "James," Elise laughed, a strained sound. "She runs operations. She's brilliant at it. Schedules, vendors, the 1,000 details. Right, Lee?" For the first time, I didn't look at her. I looked at James, at the expectant faces of her colleagues. I thought of the badge on my chest, its small, dense text. "I lead the Systemic Integrity Division," I said, my voice clear and flat. "We conduct partnership analysis." 2 sentences. The background buzz of the lobby seemed to dampen around our little circle. "Analysis," one colleague repeated. "Partnership analysis," I confirmed. "We audit and evaluate potential corporate alliances. We determine which collaborations are structurally sound and which pose an unacceptable risk." James's face lost its casual ease. His eyes dropped to his own badge, then to the logo on the nearby booth, his wife's company's logo. You evaluate companies. For partnerships." "Yes." "You mean you're vetting us?" "Right now." "My division completed its audit of your firm 3 weeks ago," I said. "The data is in. My report has been submitted." The silence was absolute. Elise stared at me, her earlier poise utterly gone. Her mouth opened, then closed. "Your report," she finally whispered. "My analysis," I said, turning to her, "of your firm's operational integrity, and specifically, of the sustainability of the Project Aurora initiative." The blood drained from her face, leaving 2 spots of high color on her cheeks. "Project Aurora that's my project." "You evaluated my project." "I evaluated the company's project," I said, a precise, critical distinction. "The audit covered planning accuracy, resource allocation, and delivery history. My function is to assess risk." One of her colleagues, an older man, cleared his throat. "And what was the assessment?" "I provide detailed findings to executive leadership," I said, leaving the answer hovering, potent and unstated. "My role is advisory, but it is definitive." That was the moment the world pivoted. Elise was no longer the star holding court. She was a subject of a review, and I was the reviewer. She looked at her colleagues, seeking solidarity, a shared joke to break the tension. Their faces were carefully neutral, minds clearly racing. The PA chimed again, a merciful interruption. We should get to the panel," James said quietly, touching Elise's elbow. She didn't move for a second, her eyes locked on mine, a storm of betrayal, shock, and dawning fear swirling in them. She was finally seeing me, not as the supportive sister, but as an independent power center. As a potential threat. They walked away. I picked up my tablet. My next task was to brief my CEO for the 2 p.m. session, the session where her fate would be formally discussed. The closed-door meeting was in a room that muted all sound. The long table gleamed under cool lights. Our CEO, along with Sam and our legal counsel, sat on one side. The VP and lead strategist from Elise's firm sat opposite. I took my seat at our CEO's right hand, opening my tablet. "Lena," my CEO began, "you've lived with this analysis. Summarize the core findings for the group, please." It felt procedural, not personal. This was the culmination of my work. The proposed partnership shows high creative potential, I started, my voice level. However, our integrity audit reveals significant structural concerns that undermine that potential. I cited the data, a 40% variance between projected and actual timelines on past projects, a pattern of budget overruns attributed to scope evolution, and internal survey data pointing to high team burnout linked to inconsistent leadership direction. Many of those points are legacy issues, their VP countered. It's a probabilistic forecast based on behavioral patterns. New project management protocols. My recommendation, should we proceed, is a pilot phase with stringent, measurable milestones and off-ramps at the first deviation. I paused, letting the alternative hang in the air. Alternatively, the risk profile suggests we may achieve our strategic goals with a more operationally mature partner. Is that your final assessment? My CEO asked. My mind did not flash to Elisa's laugh. It flashed to her project's Gantt charts, the cascading delays, the optimistic notes that never materialized. Yes, I said. It is. The creative asset is strong. The operational foundation is not. The meeting ended with no decision, only a promise to consider the feedback. As we filed out, Sam murmured, clear as crystal. Well done. An hour later, I found Elise on a small, empty terrace off the 3rd floor. She was leaning on the railing, staring at the city. So you did it, she said, not turning. You painted us as amateurs. I reported the data, I said, joining her at the railing but leaving space between us. You could have shaded it. You could have emphasized the upside. You know how much this means to me. My job isn't to shade, Elise. It's to illuminate, even the inconvenient parts. She spun to face me, her eyes bright with anger. This is my career. My reputation. And you just told a room of executives that my team's work is fragile. I told them your company's operational history shows instability. That's different. Don't split hairs with me. This feels personal. Is this about all those times I called you the command center? Is this some petty revenge? I looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw not a villain, but someone who had never been required to see beyond her own narrative. It's not personal, I said, and it was the truth. But the fact that you think it could be, that's the problem. You think my professional judgment is so small it could be swayed by a childhood nickname. You still don't see what I do. I see that you have a power you're choosing to use against me. I have a responsibility I'm choosing to honor, I said, my voice low. Do you remember my first promotion to manager? I called you excited. You said, that's perfect for you. You've always been so good at managing things. You reduced a decade of study and work to managing things. That's the lens you've always used. It lets you admire me while dismissing me. This audit, it doesn't fit that lens. So you're trying to bend it into a story about a sisterly feud. It's not. It's about a flawed project. If this deal dies, I could lose my leadership role, she said, the anger bleeding into fear. I know, I said softly. And that possibility exists because of the project's documented flaws, not because of my report. The report just reflects them. She shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping. You're hiding behind your data. I'm standing on it, I replied. It's the only ground you never gave me credit for holding. That night, in the silence of my apartment, I compiled my final report. I didn't add venom. I didn't soften the conclusions. I stated the facts, the patterns, the risk. My final line read, based on the systemic vulnerabilities documented, a partnership at this stage carries a high probability of costly failure. Not recommended. I signed it, Lena Reed, Director of Systemic Integrity. 3 weeks later, the email arrived. The subject line was, Decision, Aurora Collaborative. My hand hovered for a moment before I clicked. After careful consideration of all due diligence, including the Integrity Division's analysis, we have decided not to pursue a formal partnership with Synergy Designs at this time. A long, slow breath left my body. It was done. My phone lit up almost instantly. A text from James. Heard the news. Thinking of you both. Then, my mother's caller ID flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Her voicemail was strained. Lena, sweetheart, call me. Elise is devastated. She says your report killed her deal. We need to talk about this. How could you do that to your sister? When I called back, she didn't say hello. How could you? The accusation was a wall. Hello, Mom. This was her dream project. Family is supposed to support each other. I did support her, I said, my voice tired. I supported her by telling the truth. A partnership based on their current structure would have failed. That would have hurt her more. You don't know that. You could have given them a chance. I did my job, I said, the phrase feeling both powerful and hollow. The part where I'm not just Lena, the helpful one. The part where I'm an expert whose word has weight. You've become so hard, she said, and I could hear the disappointment. You used to be so accommodating. I know, I said. I accommodated for 28 years. I'm done. The fallout was a quiet ice age. Group chats went silent. Invitations to Sunday dinners stopped. Occasional guilt-laden texts arrived. We miss the old you. When will you apologize? They never asked, what did we miss about the real you? So, I built a new architecture for my life. I didn't do it out of spite, but out of necessity. I mentored young analysts, especially women, teaching them how to turn their meticulous work into undeniable authority. I practiced saying, I recommend against it, without flinching. I learned that respect, once earned professionally, could become a pillar for a personal life that no longer begged for validation. Reconciliation did not arrive in a dramatic, tearful scene. Life is not a movie, it's a series of quiet adjustments and recalibrated distances. 4 months, there was only silence where family noise used to be. Then, at a cousin's wedding, the paths crossed again. It was inevitable. I was near the dessert table when I heard the familiar, bright laugh. Elise was holding court across the room. Our eyes met for a second, and the laughter didn't falter, but her posture stiffened almost imperceptibly. Later, as I was getting a drink, James approached. Lena, he said. You look well. Thank you, James. You too. He hesitated, swirling the ice in his glass. I read your company's press release last month. The merger with that tech firm. The article quoted the meticulous integration analysis from your division as a key reason for investor confidence. That was you, wasn't it? It was my team's work, I said, giving the credited answer. He gave me that same knowing look from the summit. Right. He paused. She's better. The project wasn't scrapped internally. They're retooling it, using some of the feedback. It's slower. More careful. I'm glad to hear that, I said, and I meant it. She won't admit it, he said, lowering his voice. But I think the shock of it, of your report, it forced a change. A real one. Not just for the project. For her. I nodded, unsure what to say. There was no victory in it, only a dull ache for a simpler past that never truly existed. Then, it happened. A great-aunt, formidable and sharp at 80, beckoned me over to where she sat with my parents and Elise. Lena, dear. Your mother tells me you're still at that big firm. Doing what, exactly? Planning more parties. She chuckled at her own joke. The old family script unfurled in the air. My mother opened her mouth, likely to offer a softened version. Elise looked down at her champagne flute. But before anyone could speak for me, I did. That was the real shift. Not in a conference room, but at a wedding buffet. The narrative didn't explode, it simply dissolved, replaced by a new, solid truth that I had spoken aloud without apology or aggression. I didn't get a heartfelt apology from Elise that night. I didn't get a tearful embrace from my mother acknowledging their blindness. What I got was something perhaps more sustainable, a silent, de facto acceptance of my new reality. They heard me. And because I said it with the calm certainty of someone stating the color of the sky, they had no choice but to believe it. The journey wasn't about humiliating my sister or punishing my family. It was about the moment I stopped accepting their definition as my biography. It was about the immense, terrifying power of answering the question, what do you do? With the full, unvarnished truth of your worth. Their version of me was always a cardboard cutout, two-dimensional, convenient, easy to store in a familiar box. I had to step out from behind it and let them see the complex, capable person standing in its shadow. It cost me the easy, comfortable role I'd always played. but it gifted me my own voice, my own story, and the authority to tell it. So, I'll ask you this. Is there a cardboard cutout version of you that someone else is holding up? A label, a role, you're just that you've been carrying for them? What's keeping you from stepping out from behind it? The first time you do, it will feel terrifying. The silence might feel heavy. But on the other side of that silence is the profound relief of finally being seen. Not for what you do for others, but for who you are, and what you've built for yourself. That moment of choosing your own truth, it's a catalyst. It changes everything. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt boxed in or underestimated, I need you to do 2 things for me right now. First, hit the like button. It's a small gesture, but it sends a powerful signal to the YouTube algorithm, and it tells Winds of Thought that these are the kinds of deep, narrative-driven stories you want more of. Your likes are the fuel that allows this channel to keep exploring the quiet battles and personal revolutions that define our lives. Second, and most importantly, I want to hear from you. I asked you earlier to share one word people have used to define you. Now, I want you to share the word you use to define yourself. That act of self-declaration is the first, bravest step. Tell me in the comments, what is your word? What title have you earned that the world needs to hear? Let's create a thread of self-definition in the comments, a testament to the complex, powerful people watching. Your story matters. And by sharing it, you give others permission to start rewriting their own. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being part of this community. Don't forget to subscribe to Winds of Thought and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a story that challenges you to think deeper. Until next time.